guys, hope you're all well. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is my top tips for solo travel to Walt Disney World. As you guys know, last year I took a solo trip to Walt Disney World back in May time. Wow, it's nearly a year. Back in May, and I did write a blog post on all the things that I learned on my experience, which I will leave below. But I also wanted to make a video and talk about my top tips because a lot of people have been asking lately, and I think a lot of you guys have been inspired to take a solo trip, or it's been on the cards for a while and you finally been given the push that you need and you're ready to make the jump and take that solo trip to Disney World. So I have split this into 5 categories that I think the tips fall into. So the first category is budgeting. So budgeting for a solo trip can be very different to budgeting for a family trip. There's obviously perks. You won't need as much money. Well, you'd think you wouldn't need as much money, but then you have to remember that there's things like single supplement, or there's not really single supplement on hotel rooms anymore, but it's basically you have to pay the hotel room price on your own, so you need to budget for that. So I tend to stay off-site when I travel solo. It's not a preference. I would prefer to stay on Disney, but again, I just find it quite expensive. I stay in a great hotel called the Red Lion in Kissimmee, which I found really good for solo travel for a couple of reasons. It felt really safe and secure, and it's not too far from the parks, so I didn't have to budget too much for Ubers, and they did have a free shuttle as well, which obviously helps out when you're budgeting. Obviously, one of the perks of going on your own is that you can make the trip as cheap or as expensive as you like. So if you don't want to do table service on your own, you don't have to, and that will obviously greatly reduce the cost of your holiday, so you won't need as much in your budget. Some people will choose to stay on Disney, which is amazing, and you may want to choose to take the Disney dining plan at that point as well. And obviously that will cost you more in the outlay when you're booking the holiday, but then when you get there, your food is all covered, so you won't need any food money, or you won't need as much food money. So section number 2 is traveling. My biggest tip for traveling alone, and this doesn't just apply to Disney, but it's to get your hand luggage in order and have all of the documents that you need close to hand, and actually don't travel with that much technology because I got myself into a bit of a tiz. Now when I travel with somebody else, if I get pulled over at security, it's not really that much of a big deal. But when I was on my own, I was like, oh my God, I've been pulled over. Like, I forgot to take my Kindle out. So it's just arrange your hand luggage in a way that is going to be quick and easy for you to put your hands on stuff yourself. You're obviously not going to have somebody there to hand stuff over to share hand luggage with. So make sure you've got everything you need in your hand luggage. When you get to the US, you should sail through security because there'll only be one of you. Now if you can use the self-service machines, then that's great, but if not, you'll go through the regular line and see somebody at the desks. Don't worry, nobody's looking at you for traveling alone. Lots of people do it all the time. So just keep your cool, go through security as you would, pick up your bags, and then my next tip is to have a plan the other side of security. So whether you're renting a car, whether you are getting an Uber, whether you're getting the Magical Express, just have that plan in mind. Maybe put it in your travel documents and kind of find out where you need to go at the airport. Don't be scared to ask somebody where you need to go because there's lots of people who will be there to help you in Orlando. Also, traveling alone on a plane is great because you're only one person. You're very easy to move around the cabin if the flight isn't full. So ask the air hostess when you get on the plane, maybe if you can get into premium economy. You know, if you don't ask, you don't get. Or if there's a row empty, ask them if you can move to that row as well. And because you're only one person, you're very, very easy to move compared to a big family of 5, for instance. Number 3, hotel and accommodation. So this is a big one for me. Like I said, my ideal is to always stay at Disney. The reason for that is I like to use the transport, which is free, and if I'm going on a solo trip, I tend to only be doing Disney, so I wouldn't then really need to pay for any Ubers or anything like that. But it's not always possible because budget and that sort of thing, like I said earlier, you are paying the full cost of the room yourself. So if you want to go off-site, find a hotel that you feel really safe and secure in. And I think this applies for Disney as well, to be honest, but I think you're pretty safe on Disney, if I'm completely honest. Now off-site is a little bit different because you'll be getting Ubers and transfers to and from. So have a look on TripAdvisor. When you go onto a hotel on TripAdvisor, there's actually a solo traveller section, so you can look at reviews just purely from solo travellers, and you'll be able to get a gauge if people felt safe in the hotel, if they like the facilities or that sort of thing, and you can go from there really. You can also ask Facebook. So I run a group called #CLR which is a Disney parks planning group. Come along, ask anybody in there. There's lots of Disney solo travellers in there. They'll tell you where they stay, if they like it, if the transfers are good, how much Ubers cost to get to and from the parks, if they took taxis. It really is a good group for knowledge on the Disney parks. So number 5 is use of social media. Now this is obviously something that you can use lots of, or you never have to use at all. I wouldn't recommend not using it at all, because it's a great way for you to kind of let your friends and family know that you're safe, you're well, you're enjoying yourself, but obviously you can do that via text messages. It doesn't have to necessarily be social media, but also it's a great way to counteract the loneliness, and I'll come into that in a bit when I speak about kind of being in the parks on your own. But social media is a great way in queues to kill time. Many of my subscribers on here are part of the Disney community. Again, there's the Disney Facebook group. Happy for you to drop a conversation into there if you're traveling on your own and you want a bit of company, and there's no one really around that you feel comfortable talking to. There's always the internet, so it's got its positives and its negatives. Obviously you don't want to be on the internet the whole time you're in Florida, but you also kind of need a bit of social interaction, or maybe you don't. If you don't, you know, props to you. So the big one, number 5, the last section, being in the parks on your own, and tips in the park on your own. So number 1, I think, is the obvious one, and it's single rider line. So at the moment you can get single rider at Everest, you can get single rider at Rock and Roller Coaster, and you can get single rider at Test Track. Pandora Flight of Passage also has a little bit of single rider line, but you do have to go through the main queue first, and then when you get towards the end of the queue, then they start separating you into single rider lines, and you tend to move a little bit quicker through the process. I think Everest has got the best single rider line at Disney. Also Test Track very close behind. Rock and Roller Coasters can be a little bit hit and miss. If it's a short queue, great, but if not, then you'll be waiting as long as you will in the standby queue. So just make sure you get all your fast passes in order as well, but you might not want to fast pass the rides that you can do single rider, because I mean, really, does it matter who you're sitting next to? Like I said, on Everest, when I'm at Animal Kingdom, I tend to fast pass Everest anyway, but if I want to ride Everest 3 or 4 times in a row, then I'll just go straight back through the single rider queue, because it's never that long and it just moves so quickly, which is bizarre because the Rock and Roller Coaster queue moves so slowly. It's just random considering they're both sets of 2. My next tip is plan or no plan. It is totally up to you what you want to do. You might want to plan it, you might want to use my spreadsheet, you might want to be like me and plan lots and lots of your activities, or you might want to plan nothing. The best part of going solo is there is nobody there to dictate how you want to do your day. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's great to go with family and friends, but this trip is for you, and you've got to remember that. You've got to do the things that you want to do. If you want to have a lie-in, have a lie-in. If you want to get up and do extra magic hours, get up and do extra magic hours. If you want to go and ride a ride 4 times in a row, you can do that, and no one is going to judge you for it. Eat breakfast or lunch outside of busy times, and the reason that I say this is because sometimes it can be very difficult to find a table. Sometimes you kind of get sat at a big table and you're on your own, and you're like, oh, people either have to come and sit with you, or you just get stared at because you're this one person taking up a huge table. It's also a lot quieter as well, so if you want to kind of maximise your park time, I would say eat out of the regular times. You tend to move through the queue a lot quicker, and then you can get in, out, eat your food, boom, done. Keep the contents of your park bag to a minimum. So I learnt this in April when I had nobody to share wearing my backpack with. When I go with Adam, we share wearing a backpack, and I just stuff it with everything that I need. Whereas in April I was a bit more smart, and yes, I have a huge backpack, but it's not as full as it was before. I kind of really stripped down on what I was taking. Did I really need it? Also, I didn't need to carry stuff for Adam as well, so I didn't need his wallet and that sort of thing in there. So just keep an eye on what you're putting in your park bag. Remember as well, you're on your own, so you don't want to let that park bag kind of get away from you at any point. There's nobody else to watch it for you, so you need to watch it yourself. So just make sure as well that it is secure. Photos. Now you've got 2 options, I guess. You can either get Memory Maker as part of your ticket or added onto your ticket, or you can ask strangers to take photos for you, or you can ask the photographers to take photos on your own phone. Totally up to you. Just remember that the photographers will spend more time on the memory maker photos than they will on your photos, and obviously you can't ask a stranger to take 30 photos of you in the different poses in front of the castle. So memory maker is a really great way traveling solo, and I got so many shots. And what I would do is when I passed a photo photographer, I would just stop and get a photo because it was so quick. There was just me to organise. Again, you'd be in and out. I also found as well that the photo pass photographers, when they realised you were on your own, they made a bit of a fuss of you, and they were like, do this pose, do that pose, and it was just really, really nice, kind of that nice bit of interaction as well with somebody, and it was great. Also, you can download them like 30 days after your trip, so you can get home, relax, show your family members, and yeah, you've just got them forever. My next tip is to engage with people. So this is, I get a lot of questions about how did I feel lonely when I went on my solo trip, and no, I didn't. And the reason that I didn't is, number one, because I had Adam on the end of the phone whenever I needed him, or my mom or my dad. I just gave them a quick text if I wanted a little bit of interaction via my phone. But secondly, I just spoke to a lot of random people. So if someone did get sat at my dinner table, I had a chat with them. I had a really nice chat with a couple while I was in Hollywood Studios waiting for Fantasmic as well. I chatted to people in queues. American people are so friendly, or most American people are so friendly, and I know that's a very kind of stereotypical thing to say, but they will just chat to you. And when they tend to find out you're British, they really like to chat to you. They love to talk to you about the UK and your accent, and it's just a really nice way of getting a bit of social interaction, and then you go on with your day, and it's really nice, and you feel like you've had that human contact with someone. So I didn't worry about getting lonely at all. But this leads me on to my next point, and if I'd have said this like 10 years ago, people would be looking at me now going, what, that's a bit weird. Maybe not 10 years, maybe 15 years ago. But internet friends, there are so many people now in the Disney community, and so many people that travel at the same time, that it's very, very easy to find internet friends. So it may be that you're traveling solo and you arrange to meet up with them. You may choose to travel with them for a couple of days. But there's so many people. There's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's YouTube, Instagram. So many people have made amazing friendships on the internet. And it's really nice to just have that person to check in with while you're there. Maybe grab a bit of lunch, arrange a table service if you're not confident about sitting down on your own. Then you can obviously do that. I'm very lucky. Obviously, last time I went, I had my friends who were on the CRP as well. So that was really nice. But if I didn't have them, I definitely wouldn't have felt lonely, because I still had internet friends that kind of I met, and we had a really good time. My next tip is take your time. There is nothing nicer than in the Orlando heat to just come inside in the aircon, have your lunch, just sit and chill for a bit. You don't want to be going hard the entire holiday, because it's great because you can go off and you can do what you want when you want, but you've got to look after yourself as well, and that means taking your time sometimes. So have a little stroll down the shops down Main Street, come inside and sit in the aircon for a bit. I sat in Pecco's Bill for 2 hours on my solo trip last time, just had a little catch up on social media, ate my food, rested my feet, cooled down because it was a hot day, had a chat with the couple at the table next to me. Do you know what? It was really, really nice. And you need to just make sure you're looking after yourself, because there's nobody there to kind of say to you, do you not think that you need to kind of slow down? You need to know yourself when to do that. And I think my last tip is, don't be afraid to dine alone. So actually on my solo trip, I didn't do any sit down table service on my own, but on my last trip in October I did, and I went to the Yachtsman because I would never have gone otherwise. So I got to the Yachtsman, I sat down, my server was absolutely wonderful. He came and chatted to me, he spent a lot of time chatting to me, and yes, I know that they will do that because obviously they want to make a good impression and for their tips and stuff, but actually when you're on your own, it's really appreciated. And I felt like he took extra time with me than with the table next to me, which happened to be a couple on a first date, which I'm not gonna lie was brilliant to watch. And because I was solo, I could sit and kind of eavesdrop uninterrupted as well. I didn't have to speak to anyone. Not that I don't like speaking to anyone at dinner, because obviously my preference is always to have dinner with somebody, but it was just really nice. Again, a lot of chill time. I could kind of eavesdrop on their conversation. It was great. I live tweeted the last one, and it was just really nice. It was nice to just sit down, actually take the weight off my feet again and just relax. And I've said that a lot in this video, but it's so nice to do Disney in a way that you can relax. Not saying that you can't do that when you're with your family. It really depends on how you do your itinerary. But if you're like me and you like to be out and about in the parks and you don't really like much downtime by the pool and that sort of thing, then actually taking the time for a sit down meal, which is going to take you about an hour and a half, is probably a nice way to kind of get off your feet for a little bit. And the last tip that I have is to just have fun. Honestly, Disney World solo, a lot of people will be like, oh, that's not really traveling solo because it was Disney World. Yes, it is. Going anywhere on your own on holiday is solo travel. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about it. If you want to spend your solo travel time in Disney, you go and you spend your solo travel time in Disney. Honestly, it will be one of the best things that you do. If you're really considering it, I implore you to really consider it and make the jump and book it if you can. And there's so many tips that other solo traveler friends of mine have, so if they have any, I would love you to leave them in the comments below. I've only done this once, but I know people who have done this 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. When I first did my solo trip, I was like, oh my God, I'm taking this big step and I'm doing this solo trip. And for me at the time, it was a huge step. But there's so many people solo in Disney. No one's looking at you. No one's going like, oh, why is that loser in Disney on their own? No one cares about it. So just make sure you're having fun. You're not letting anybody else affect your holiday, and just live your best life. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, I do follow me around Disney vlogs on Sundays, and I do weekly vlogs on Tuesdays. There'll also be another video next Thursday, which I think is going to be my park announcement, my trip announcement for my April trip. So thank you very much for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up, and I will see you all very soon. Bye, guys.